In Los Angeles, a place to park is fast becoming a place to start over for thousands of people there living in RVs.
Nearly 10% of America's homeless lives in LA alone. Almost 7,000 of those people live in RVs.
Imagine working a full-time job, maybe even earning six figures. Yet at night, instead of walking into a warm house, you climb into the back of a van or an RV parked on the edge of town. Across America, this is no longer a rare story. It is becoming the new reality. Families, single mothers, veterans, even people with good jobs are being pushed out of traditional housing and into vehicles, forced to turn cars into bedrooms and RVs into permanent homes. The American dream of homeownership is being replaced by a survival game on four wheels. Every mile driven is not for vacation, but for survival, for finding the next safe spot to park without being fined, harassed, or forced to move. This is not the future people imagined when they worked hard their whole lives, yet millions are living it right now, silently, in plain sight. What led to this silent housing apocalypse? And how deep does this crisis really go? Stay with me till the end as we uncover the truth most headlines don't dare to show. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe, because stories like this are just the beginning, and you won't want to miss what's coming next. Across the United States, a quiet transformation is taking place, one that very few are willing to talk about openly. On highways, in supermarket parking lots, outside industrial parks, and hidden at the edges of suburban neighborhoods, you can find families living in vans, retirees sleeping in RVs, and workers who finish their shifts only to climb into cars that double as their homes. This isn't the story of a handful of people down on their luck. It is the story of millions who have been priced out of the housing market and forced to redefine what survival looks like in modern America. The cost of living has exploded. Home prices have soared to record highs, reaching levels far beyond what the average worker can afford. Even modest apartments now eat up most of a paycheck, and with mortgage rates climbing and rents skyrocketing, many have realized they simply cannot keep up. People who once thought of themselves as middle class, teachers, nurses, construction workers, office staff, now face a reality where stable housing has slipped out of reach. Some try to stretch their savings, some take on multiple jobs, but for too many, the math never works. Their solution isn't to move into another house or apartment, but into a vehicle. For retirees, the situation is even more heartbreaking. Many spent their lives believing their pensions or Social Security would cover basic needs. Instead, they are discovering that fixed incomes cannot keep up with inflation, property taxes, and rising insurance costs. In places like Florida, Arizona, and California, elderly couples who once dreamed of peaceful retirements are now parking their RVs at campgrounds or Walmart lots, turning their final years into a struggle for dignity. They aren't traveling for leisure. They're living this way because there's nowhere else to go. The crisis doesn't stop at the elderly. Families with children are being pulled into this cycle too. Parents who lost jobs or faced medical bills are packing their kids into vans, trying to make cramped spaces feel like home. Nights are spent in sleeping bags, dinners cooked on small propane stoves, homework done by flashlight. For these children, childhood memories aren't built in backyards or bedrooms, but in parking lots and borrowed showers. Even people with good jobs are falling into this lifestyle. Nurses, software engineers, delivery drivers. Some earn more than the national average, yet cannot afford rent in the cities where they work. In states like California, Washington, and Colorado, entire communities of working professionals now live in vehicles, lining streets in expensive neighborhoods because housing prices are simply impossible to match with their salaries. Some are embarrassed, some are angry, and most are simply exhausted. The deeper tragedy is how invisible this crisis can seem. Official unemployment numbers don't show it. Housing market reports rarely capture it. Politicians talk about growth and recovery, but they don't see the growing line of vans outside rest stops, or the RVs packed into church parking lots. These people are not counted as homeless in traditional statistics, yet they are living without the stability of a permanent address. They fall into a gray zone where they're not recognized, not supported, and often criminalized. Cities across the country have responded not with compassion, but with crackdowns. Laws banning overnight parking, tickets for sleeping in vehicles, and constant harassment force people to move from place to place. It is a cycle of displacement that never ends. For families already on edge, one ticket or one tow can mean losing everything they own. The mental toll is devastating. Living in a car strips away privacy, dignity, and the sense of security most people take for granted. Parents worry constantly about their children's safety. Elderly people struggle with loneliness and illness. Workers hide their reality from colleagues out of fear of shame. Every day becomes a battle not just for food and gas money, but for identity, self-worth, and survival. At the same time, the corporations and investors fueling this crisis continue to profit. Housing has been turned into an investment tool, a playground for the wealthy, while the working class pays the price. Empty homes sit in gated communities, while families sleep in minivans. The dream of owning a house has been replaced with the nightmare of chasing one's next safe parking spot. This is more than just an economic story. It is a story about what kind of society America is becoming. A place where homes are no longer a right, but a luxury. A place where millions live one missed paycheck away from the street. And a place where survival on four wheels is becoming normal, even expected. The question now is how long this can continue before the breaking point arrives. A nation cannot survive when its people no longer have stable shelter. A society cannot thrive when families, retirees, and workers are forced to live in vehicles while wealth concentrates at the top. And a dream cannot endure if it turns into a nightmare for the very people it once promised to protect. This silent housing apocalypse is here, and it is spreading. Every parked van, every crowded RV, every family sleeping in the backseat of a car is a warning sign. What happens next will determine whether the American dream can be rebuilt or whether it will vanish forever, replaced by a future where home is not a place, but just a vehicle parked in the shadows. When you look at this crisis, it's not just about numbers or statistics. It's about real people. Families who worked hard all their lives. Retirees who believed they were safe. Workers who put in long hours every day, all now living in cars, vans, and RVs because the system failed them. It shows us how fragile stability has become in America. How quickly a secure life can fall apart when housing turns from a basic need into an impossible dream. The reality is harsh, but it also forces us to ask, how much longer can a society survive if millions have no place to truly call home? If this continues, what kind of future will be left for the next generation? These are the questions we need to think about. And these are the truths we cannot ignore. If you want to keep exploring stories like this, uncovering the realities hidden behind the headlines, make sure to subscribe right now because the biggest revelations are still to come.